Dr. Yunji Park adjusted her helmet display as the Martian dust swept across the expedition site. The energy readings were unlike anything their instruments had recorded before, pulsing beneath the rusty surface in regular intervals. "Team, gather around," she called to her colleagues. "These readings suggest something artificial." Dr. Taiho Kim, the team's lead geologist, knelt beside an unusual rock formation. "This isn't natural," he muttered, brushing away centuries of dust to reveal a metallic surface beneath. After 3 days of careful excavation, they uncovered what appeared to be a doorway embedded in the Martian bedrock. The team's engineer, Ji-Woo Choi, identified a peculiar indentation beside it. "It's some kind of access panel," Ji-Woo said, carefully placing her hand against it. The ground trembled beneath them as ancient machinery awakened. The doorway slid open, revealing a darkened passage descending into the planet. "Mission Control, we found something," Yunji reported. "Request permission to investigate." Despite Mission Control's hesitation, the team was granted 6 hours to explore. They activated their lights and descended. The passage opened into a vast chamber with soaring ceilings and structures that defied conventional architecture. "This is impossible," whispered Hei Newley, the team's exobiologist. "This city must be thousands of years old." As they ventured deeper, Ji-Woo noticed a control panel unlike the others. When she approached, it illuminated spontaneously. Before anyone could stop her, she touched the glowing surface. Lights sparked to life throughout the chamber, illuminating the alien city in its full glory. Behind them, the entrance sealed with a definitive thud. The 5 team members froze, staring at each other in the now bright chamber. The sound of the sealed entrance echoed through the vast space. "Ji-Woo," Yunji called out, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "What did you do?" Ji-Woo stepped back from the panel, her eyes wide. "I didn't mean to. It just lit up when I got close." Taiho ran back to the entrance, his boots clanking against the metallic floor. He pressed his hands against the sealed door, feeling for any mechanism that might reopen it. "It's completely sealed," he announced, turning back to the team. "No visible way to open it from this side." Hamnul checked his suit readings. "Air quality is remarkable. Oxygen levels match Earth's atmosphere. Temperature stable at 22 degrees Celsius." "That's impossible," Yunji said. "This place has been sealed for who knows how long." "Yet here we are," Donghyun replied, studying the walls. "And something is maintaining life support." The team gathered in the center of the chamber, their helmet lights no longer necessary, in the softly glowing room. All around them, architecture unlike anything human minds had designed stretched upward and outward. The walls curved in gentle arcs, meeting in points that seemed to defy physics. Materials shimmered with an inner light, casting no shadows. "Mission Control will be expecting a check-in soon," Yunji reminded them. "When we don't respond, they'll send a rescue team." "That could take days," Ji-Woo said. "We need to find another way out." Donghyun approached one of the walls, studying the symbols etched into its surface. "These markings, they're not random. This is a language." The team split into pairs to explore the immediate area. Yunji and Ji-Woo took the eastern passage, while Taiho and Hei Newell investigated the western corridor. Donghyun stayed in the main chamber, documenting the symbols with his tablet. Yunji and Ji-Woo walked slowly down their chosen corridor. The passage widened into a room filled with what appeared to be sleeping pods, hundreds of them, arranged in concentric circles. "Are these beds?" Ji-Woo asked, approaching one of the pods. Yunji followed, scanning the nearest pod with her handheld device. "No life signs. Whatever was meant to be in these is long gone." In the western corridor, Taiho and Hei Newell discovered what seemed to be a control room. Screens lined the walls, dark and silent until Hei Newell accidentally brushed against a panel. The screens flickered to life, displaying star charts and diagrams. "Look at this," Taiho said, pointing to one screen. That's our solar system. And this? He indicated a pulsing dot. That's Mars. Newell leaned closer. The date on this chart. If I'm reading it correctly, this is showing planetary positions from over 10,000 years ago. Back in the main chamber, Dong-hyun was making progress with the symbols. Some of these patterns repeat, he muttered to himself. They could be phonetic elements, or maybe ideograms. A soft hum began to fill the air. The floor beneath them vibrated slightly, and the light in the chamber shifted from white to a pale blue. Guys, Dong-hyun called into his comm. Something's happening in the main chamber. The teams rushed back to find a holographic display forming in the center of the room. A three-dimensional model of Mars rotated slowly in the air, with a pulsing light marking their current location. It's responding to our presence, Yunji said. But why now, after all this time? As if answering her question, the hologram changed. The image of Mars dissolved, replaced by a sequence of figures. They were humanoid but clearly not human, taller, with elongated limbs and features that seemed both familiar and alien. Are those the builders? Newell asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The holographic figures appeared to be performing tasks, constructing buildings, operating machinery, studying star charts. Then the scene changed, showing the figures in what looked like distress. Their city, presumably the one the team now stood in, was being sealed, with the last of the figures departing through what appeared to be a portal. They left, Jigu said. They abandoned this place. The hologram shifted again, showing Earth at different periods in its history. Ancient civilizations rose and fell in rapid succession. Then the image focused on modern humans, zooming in on what looked like DNA strands. I think they were studying us, Dong-hyun said. Maybe even interacting with our ancestors. The hologram finally settled on an image of the 5 team members, perfectly rendered in blue light. It knows we're here, Taiho said. It's been watching us since we entered. A new symbol appeared above their holographic forms, a complex pattern that pulsed with increasing intensity. I've seen this symbol, Dong-hyun said excitedly. It's repeated throughout the texts. I think it might mean chosen or perhaps successor. The humming in the room grew louder. Additional panels around the chamber began to activate, revealing doorways that had been hidden moments before. The city is opening itself to us, Yunji realized. But why? Newell pointed to his tablet. My sensors are picking up energy signatures deeper in the complex, much stronger than what led us here. Whatever secrets this place holds, Yunji said, looking at her team. I think we're meant to find them. Jaiwoo glanced at the sealed entrance behind them. It's not like we have much choice now. The hologram dissolved, and the blue light stabilized. The 5 stood in silence for a moment, contemplating their situation. 6 hours until Mission Control expects our return, Yunji finally said. Let's make them count. The atmosphere is breathable, Newell announced after checking his instruments. Oxygen levels similar to Earth's. The team removed their helmets cautiously, taking their first breaths in what they now called the Architect City. Dong-hyun Park, their xenolinguist, was entranced by the symbols covering the walls. This language, he whispered, it's unlike any we've encountered, yet something about it feels familiar. They established a base camp near what appeared to be a central terminal. Dong-hyun began the painstaking process of deciphering the alien script, while the others explored nearby chambers. The architecture responds to our presence, Yunji noted as doors slid open when they approached. Lights activated along their path as if guiding them. On their 3rd day underground, Taiho stopped suddenly. Did you see that? He asked, pointing down a corridor. See what? Jigu asked. A figure, just for a moment. Then it vanished. Similar sightings occurred over the following days. Shadowy forms observed peripherally, disappearing when directly approached. Dong-hyun made a breakthrough with the translations. They called themselves the Architects, he announced. And this facility appears to be some kind of waiting station. Waiting for what? Yunji asked. Before he could answer, a holographic display activated beside them, showing a three-dimensional map of the city, with a pulsing marker indicating an unexplored section. The 5 team members stared at the map hovering in the air before them. The pulsing marker seemed to beckon them forward. "It wants us to go there," Jigu said, reaching out to touch the hologram. Her fingers passed through the light, causing ripples like water. Yunji studied the map carefully. "This section is at least 2 kilometers deeper than we've explored so far. Mission Control hasn't responded to any of our messages," Taiho reminded them. "It's been 3 days. The rock above us must be blocking our signals," Haenul said. "They probably think we're dead." Donghyun looked up from his tablet, where he had been recording translations. "I've managed to decode more text. The architects didn't just build this place. They lived here for thousands of years." "But where did they go?" Jiwoo asked. Donghyun shook his head. "I don't know yet. But look at this." He showed them an image he had captured from one wall. "These symbols here describe humans visiting their cities. But the date, it's from the future." "That's impossible," Yunji said. "Unless they could see the future," Taiho suggested. "Or they planned for us to be here." The team packed essential supplies and prepared to follow the map. The city's passages seemed to shift subtly as they walked, opening new pathways and closing others behind them. "It's like the whole place is alive," Haenul said, watching a doorway form in what had been a solid wall moments before. They walked for hours, moving deeper into the complex. The architecture changed as they progressed. The walls became more intricate, covered with flowing patterns that seemed to move when viewed from the corner of one's eye. "There it is again," Taiho suddenly shouted, pointing down a side passage. This time, they all saw it. A tall, slender figure, glowing faintly with bluish light. It stood watching them for several seconds before gliding away around a corner. "After it," Yunji ordered, and the team broke into a run. They rounded the corner only to find an empty chamber filled with what appeared to be sleeping pods, similar to the ones Jiwoo and Yunji had discovered earlier. "Where did it go?" Jiwoo asked, breathing heavily. "Look at this," Haenul said, approaching one of the pods. Unlike the others they had seen, this one was active, its surface glowing softly. The team gathered around. Inside, suspended in clear fluid, floated what could only be described as an architect. Its body was humanoid but elongated, with skin like polished silver. Its closed eyes were large and almond-shaped. "Is it alive?" Taiho whispered. Haenul scanned the pod with his instruments. "Life signs are present but extremely slow. It's in some kind of suspended animation." "There are hundreds of pods in this room," Jiwoo noted, looking around. "Are they all occupied?" "No," Yunji said, checking nearby pods. "Just this one. The rest are empty." Donghyun was studying the symbols on the active pod. "This says, Guardian or possibly Watcher, and below it, awaiting the worthy." As if responding to his words, the fluid in the pod began to drain. The team stepped back as the pod's cover slid open with a soft hiss. The architect's eyes remained closed as it floated gently to the bottom of the now empty container. Its chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate breaths. "Should we wake it?" Jiwoo asked. Before anyone could answer, the architect's eyes opened. They were a deep violet color, with no visible pupils. It regarded the humans silently for several long moments. Then, to their astonishment, it spoke, not aloud, but directly into their minds. "You have come," the voice said, its tone neither male nor female. "After so long, you have finally come." The team members looked at each other in shock. "Can you understand me?" Yunji finally asked. "Yes," the voice replied. "Your language was simple to learn from your minds." "You're reading our thoughts?" Taiho asked, alarmed. "Only surface thoughts. It is how we communicate." The architect rose from the pod with fluid grace. Standing, it towered over them. nearly 3 meters tall. "I am the Watcher," it said, "the last of my kind to remain in this place." "What happened to the others?" Donghyun asked. "They left, or died. It has been a very long time." "How long have you been in that pod?" Haenul asked. "By your measurement of time, approximately 50,000 years." The team exchanged stunned glances. "Why did you stay behind?" Yunji asked. "To wait for you," the Watcher replied simply. "For those who would come and prove worthy." "Worthy of what?" Jiwoo asked. The Watcher moved toward the chamber's exit, its movements eerily smooth. "Come, I will show you." It led them through passages that had not been on their map, moving deeper into the city. As they walked, the Watcher spoke into their minds. "My people were old when your kind were still learning to use tools. We traveled between stars and built cities on many worlds. But we knew our time was ending." "Why?" Donghyun asked. "All civilizations rise and fall," the Watcher replied. "But knowledge need not die with its creators. We left our cities as legacies, seeds for the future." They entered a vast circular chamber dominated by a column of light stretching from floor to ceiling. "This is the heart of our city," the Watcher said, "the repository of all we knew and were." "You've been waiting for someone to find your knowledge?" Yunji asked. "Not just anyone," the Watcher corrected. "Those who could use it wisely. We left Watchers on many worlds to test those who might come." "Test?" Taeho asked, suddenly wary. "Yes, you are not the first to find this place. Others came before you, from your world and others. None passed beyond the first chambers." "But we did," Jiwoo said. "You did," the Watcher agreed. "And now you faced the true test." The column of light pulsed brighter, and images began to form within it, scenes of Earth, of human history, of wars and destruction alongside moments of creation and discovery. "We have watched your kind for millennia," the Watcher said. "Your potential is great. So is your capacity for self-destruction." "You've been to Earth?" Haenul asked. "Many times. We guided when we could. We waited for you to be ready." "Ready for what?" Yunji asked. The Watcher's violet eyes seemed to look through them rather than at them. "Ready to face what destroyed us." The map led them to a vast spherical chamber. As they entered, the walls illuminated with images of Earth throughout different periods: ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Roman Empire, and more recent eras. "They've been watching us," Haenul whispered. Donghyun worked tirelessly at the main terminal, translating fragments of their records. "The architects visited Earth multiple times," he explained. "They were studying us, maybe even guiding our development." "Why?" asked Jiwoo. "Their civilization was facing extinction from something they called the Sundering. They were searching for successors." More translations revealed that humans possessed unique neurological patterns that allowed interaction with architect technology in ways the aliens themselves couldn't achieve. "That explains why the city responds to us," Taeho said. Eunji approached what appeared to be a central pedestal. "What's this device?" As her hand touched the surface, the chamber trembled. A voice, not quite human, echoed through the room. "Assessment protocol initiated. Successor candidates detected. Trials will commence." The 5 team members froze as the voice faded into silence. The images on the walls shifted and blurred, now showing scenes of human achievement: the first airplane, the moon landing, the Mars colonies. "What does it mean by trials?" Jiwoo asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could answer, the Watcher glided into the chamber, its silver form seeming to absorb and reflect the light from the walls. "The final test begins," it said into their minds. "Only those who pass may access the full knowledge of the architects." Donghyun stepped forward. "What happens if we fail?" "You return to your world with only the memory of what you have seen. Nothing more." Eunji squared her shoulders. "And if we pass?" "You become the inheritors of all we were," The Watcher replied. Our knowledge, our technology, our purpose. What exactly is this test? Tahoe asked. The Watcher moved to the central pedestal that Yunji had touched. The test is of understanding, not just of our technology, but of yourselves. The pedestal split open, revealing a crystalline object that rose into the air. It was roughly the size of a human head, with facets that caught and scattered light in impossible patterns. This is the heart of knowledge, the Watcher explained. It contains the essence of our civilization. To access it, you must first understand why we chose humans as potential successors. Hanul studied the floating crystal. You said we have unique neurological patterns. Yes, but why do you possess them? The Watcher asked. That is what you must discover. The crystal pulsed with inner light, projecting a three-dimensional image of a DNA strand that rotated slowly in the air. Human DNA, Dong Hian observed. Then he noticed something strange. Wait, there are markers here, artificial sequences. The Watcher nodded. Continue. Dong Hian's eyes widened as he studied the projection. These markers aren't random mutations. They're engineered. You modified us, Yunji said, understanding dawning on her face. You changed human DNA. When? Tahoe asked. How long ago? The process began approximately 100,000 of your years ago, the Watcher replied. Small changes, introduced gradually into your evolutionary line. You were breeding us? Ji Wu asked, her voice sharp with sudden anger. Not breeding. Guiding, the Watcher corrected. We saw potential in your species when you were still primitive. We added specific traits to your genetic code. What traits? Newell asked. Curiosity, creativity, adaptability, and most importantly, a specific neurological structure that allows for a unique form of consciousness. The crystal's projection changed, now showing human brain activity alongside what they assumed was an architect brain. Our minds evolved to process information linearly, the Watcher explained. Yours evolved to make intuitive leaps, connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. This is something we could not do. You created us to think in ways you couldn't, Dongyan said. To solve problems we could not solve, the Watcher agreed. The very problem that led to our decline. The crystal pulsed again, and new images formed. Stars exploding, galaxies torn apart, reality itself seeming to unravel. The sundering, Yunji whispered. Yes, a fundamental breakdown in the fabric of space-time. Our science could detect it, but not prevent it. We calculated that it would eventually reach every corner of the universe. How long do we have? Tahoe asked. By your measurement, approximately 800 years before it reaches your solar system. The team exchanged glances of shock and disbelief. You expect us to solve a problem your entire civilization couldn't solve? Ji Wu asked. We believe you can, the Watcher said simply. Your minds work differently. Where we saw only one path, you might see many. Hanul shook his head. Even with your technology, how could we possibly? That is the test, the Watcher interrupted. Not to solve the problem now, but to demonstrate the potential to solve it eventually. The crystal descended back into the pedestal, which sealed itself. The chamber darkened, with only 5 spots of light remaining, one beneath each team member. Each of you must face your individual trial, the Watcher explained. Each trial will test an aspect of human cognition that we believe necessary for finding a solution to the sundering. What kind of trials? Yunji asked. They will be drawn from your own minds. Challenges that reveal your true nature. The lights beneath their feet intensified, and Yunji felt a strange sensation, as if the floor was becoming insubstantial. Wait, she called out. We need more time to prepare. There is no preparation possible, the Watcher replied. The trials must be faced with your natural abilities, not rehearsed responses. The floor beneath them vanished, and they fell, not down, but sideways, each in a different direction, through passages that hadn't existed moments before. Yunji found herself alone in a small chamber. The walls were blank, the floor bare except for a single object in the center, a perfect replica of her childhood home. "Your trial begins," the Watcher's voice echoed in her mind. "Find what was lost." Across the city, each team member faced their own challenge. Taiho stood before an ever-shifting landscape that transformed from desert to ocean to mountain range in the blink of an eye. "Predict the pattern," his trial demanded. Donghyun found himself surrounded by symbols that weren't quite architect script and weren't quite human language. Something new, a hybrid of both. "Create meaning," his challenge instructed. Hanul faced a series of alien species, some that had evolved naturally, others that had been engineered like humans. "Determine which will survive the sundering," his trial asked. And Jiwoo stood before a massive half-built machine of impossible complexity. "Complete what we could not finish," her task demanded. In the central chamber, the Watcher observed them all through the crystal, which now showed 5 separate images of the humans facing their trials. "They are remarkable," it thought to itself. "But are they enough?" "What trials?" Jiwoo demanded, but the voice had gone silent. The answer came when the chamber reconfigured itself, walls shifting to form a labyrinth that separated the team members. Each faced challenges designed to test different aspects of human potential. Yunji confronted logical puzzles that required creative solutions. Jiwoo faced engineering challenges to repair systems with unfamiliar components. Donghyun worked through complex linguistic problems. Haenul was tested on biological principles, while Taeho faced geological and planetary formation challenges. They communicated through their comms, sharing insights and helping each other when possible. These aren't just tests of knowledge, Donghyun realized. They're testing our cooperation, our ethics, our creativity. In the final chamber, they'd reunited before a terminal displaying Earth's genetic code alongside modifications made over thousands of years. "They engineered us," Haenul said, stunned. "Subtle changes to accelerate our development." The voice returned. "Final assessment. Humanity is the first species in 2.3 million cycles to complete all trials successfully. What happens now?" Yunji asked. "Inheritance protocol initiated." Yunji found herself staring at a wall of water that defied gravity. It stood like a vertical pond, rippling slightly but never falling. On the other side, she could see a key floating, just out of reach. "Solve the paradox," the voice instructed. She studied the water barrier. Her first instinct was to reach through it, but she hesitated. This couldn't be that simple. She picked up a small rock from the floor and tossed it at the water. The rock passed through, creating ripples, but fell dry on the other side. "It's not water," she realized aloud. "It just looks like water." She cautiously extended her hand. It passed through the barrier with no resistance, completely dry. She grabbed the key and pulled it back. The scene shifted. Now she faced 3 doors. Behind one, the voice explained, was the path forward. Behind the others, certain failure. "Choose wisely," it said. There were no markings, no clues, just 3 identical doors. "This isn't about choosing the right door," Yunji said after a moment. "It's about how I make the choice." She touched her comm. "Team, I need help." Miles away in his own trial, Taiho stood before a model of a solar system that was tearing itself apart. Planets were breaking from their orbits, heading toward collision courses. "Restore balance," the voice commanded. Despite the interruption from Yunji, he couldn't look away from his task. "I'm trying to stop planetary collisions here," he replied. "What do you see in front of you?" Yunji asked urgently. "A solar system model. The gravity is all wrong." "And you, Jiwoo?" Jiwoo was surrounded by broken machinery. "Some kind of engine. Parts missing. I need to rebuild it." "Donghyun." Haenul. Donghyun reported facing a wall of symbols that kept rearranging themselves. Haenul was studying what appeared to be the life cycle of an unknown organism. We're all facing different parts of the same problem. You have done what no other species has accomplished, it said. You've faced the challenges not just with intelligence, but with wisdom. We worked together, Yunji said, even when separated. Yes, the Watcher replied. The architects were brilliant individuals, but they could not transcend their specialized thinking. Your species can. It gestured, and a terminal rose from the floor. On the screen appeared Earth's genetic code, with certain sequences highlighted. These are the changes we made to your ancestors, the Watcher explained. Enhancements to creativity, cooperation, and cognitive flexibility. You created us to succeed where you failed, Haynul said. We gave you tools, the Watcher corrected. You built something greater than we anticipated. Taiho studied the genetic sequences. These modifications are in every human on Earth. Yes, though they express themselves differently in each individual. Jaiwu looked troubled. Did we really pass your test, or were we designed to pass? Both, the Watcher said. We designed the potential. You realized it through your own choices. The chamber filled with light as the terminal expanded, displaying more information than they could possibly absorb. Final assessment. Humanity is the first species in 2.3 million cycles to complete all trials successfully, the voice announced. What happens now? Yunji asked. Inheritance protocol initiated, the voice replied. The Watcher's form began to dissolve into points of light that swirled around them. My task is complete, it said, its mental voice growing fainter. The legacy of the architects is now yours. Don't go, Donghyun said. We still have so many questions. The answers await you, the Watcher replied as it faded completely. All that we were, all that we knew, now belongs to humanity. The lights coalesced into 5 glowing orbs that hovered before each team member. Reach out, the voice instructed. Accept your inheritance. The central chamber transformed once more, revealing a massive database, the complete knowledge repository of the architect civilization. This contains everything, Donghyun said in awe as he browsed the interface. Their history, technology, star charts marking other architect outposts throughout the galaxy. Why give this to us? Tahoe asked. The answer came through the translation of the final architect message. They had foreseen their extinction and created these hidden cities as time capsules for worthy successor species. There's something else, Jiwoo said, studying a star chart. A warning about the sundering, the threat that destroyed them. According to this, it will eventually reach our solar system. How long do we have? Yunji asked. Centuries, maybe. But they're giving us their technology to prepare. The team gathered what data they could store and found that the city had opened a new passage, one leading to the surface near their landing site. As they prepared to return to Earth with their unprecedented discovery, Haynul looked back at the alien city one last time. They waited all this time for someone to find them, he said. Now it's our responsibility to use their knowledge wisely. And to prepare, Yunji added, for whatever's coming. The end. The 5 glowing orbs hovered before each team member, pulsing with an inner light that seemed almost alive. Yunji was the first to reach out, her fingers trembling slightly as they approached the orb before her. What will happen when we touch them? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice that had guided them through the trials answered one final time. You will receive the knowledge in a form your minds can process. Be warned, it will change you. Imjayed looked at her team members. They nodded in silent agreement. Together, they reached for the orbs. The moment of contact was like nothing they had experienced before. The orbs dissolved into streams of light that flowed into their hands, up their arms, and directly into their minds. Yunji gasped as information flooded her consciousness, not as words or images, but as pure understanding. She saw the history of the architects unfolding across millions of years. She witnessed their rise from simple beginnings on a distant world to masters of technology beyond human imagination. She felt their growing fear as they detected the first signs of the sundering, a breakdown in the fundamental laws of physics that began at the edge of the universe and spread like a cancer. When the light faded, the 5 team members stood silent, forever changed. "I understand now," Dong Hyun said finally. "The sundering isn't just a natural disaster. It's the universe itself breaking down. They tried everything to stop it," Taeho added, his eyes unfocused as he processed new knowledge. Barriers between dimensions, time manipulation, even attempts to create pocket universes as shelters. Nothing worked, Ji-woo said, because they were thinking too linearly. Newell nodded. "That's why they needed us. Our minds work differently. We make connections they couldn't see." The chamber around them began to transform, walls folding away to reveal a vast database interface that surrounded them on all sides. Information flowed across surfaces in patterns that would have been incomprehensible before, but now made perfect sense. "This contains everything they knew," Dong Hyun said, moving his hands through the data streams with newfound familiarity. "Their entire civilization, preserved for whoever could pass their tests." Eunji approached what appeared to be a star map. "Look at this," she called to the others. "These points mark other architect outposts throughout the galaxy." The map expanded to show hundreds of locations, some on planets, others in deep space or hidden within asteroids. "There are so many," Taeho said in wonder, "all waiting to be found." "But why?" Ji-woo asked. "Why go to all this trouble? Why not just try to save themselves?" The answer appeared before them as Dong Hyun translated the final message left by the architects. The words formed in the air, written in both their language and human script. "To those who find this place, we give you our knowledge freely. Our time is past. The universe is now yours to protect. The sundering cannot be stopped, but it can be survived. Learn from our failures. Succeed where we could not. You carry our hope with you." "They knew they were doomed," Newell said softly. "So they created us as their legacy. And as the universe's best hope," Yunji added. Ji-woo studied a complex diagram that detailed the sundering's progression. "According to their calculations, it will reach our solar system in approximately 800 years. That's not much time," Taeho said. "But we have their technology," Dong Hyun pointed out. "And we understand things they didn't." Eunji touched another part of the interface, and a new passage opened in the chamber wall, a tunnel sloping gently upward. "This leads to the surface," she said, "near our landing site." "How do you know that?" Ji-woo asked. "I just know," Yunji replied, unable to explain how the information was simply there in her mind. They worked quickly to gather what data they could. The architects had thoughtfully provided storage devices compatible with human technology, allowing them to download critical information from the database. "We can't take it all," Newell said. "There's too much. We'll take what humanity needs most urgently," Yunji decided. "And we can return for more." They selected information on sustainable energy, medical advances, space travel, and the early warning signs of the sundering. Most importantly, they took the star charts showing the locations of other architect outposts. Each outpost contains different aspects of their knowledge, Dong Hyun explained as they worked. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. "Smart," Ji-woo said. "If one is destroyed or never found, the others still exist." When they had filled their storage devices, they prepared to leave. The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly, as if the city was responding to their departure. "Will it just wait here again?" Taeho asked. "For someone else to find it?" "No," Yunji said with certainty. "It's fulfilled its purpose. We're the inheritors now." As if confirming her words, the database interface began to fold away, the walls returning to their previous state. But there was a difference. The alien script now appeared in a form they could all read, telling the story of the architects and their final gift to the universe. They started up the passage toward the surface, each carrying precious data containers. After walking for what seemed like hours, they saw natural light ahead, the first they'd seen in days. The passage emerged exactly where Yunji had known it would, just 200 meters from their landing site. In the distance, they could see a rescue team setting up a base camp. "They came for us after all," Ji-woo said with relief. Before stepping into the sunlight, they paused for a moment. Hae-Newell turned back to look at the passage that had brought them to the surface. "They waited all this time for someone to find them," he said. "Now it's our responsibility to use their knowledge wisely. And to prepare," Yunji added, "for whatever's coming." As they emerged onto the Martian surface, the passage behind them sealed seamlessly, becoming indistinguishable from the surrounding rock. To anyone else, it would appear to be just another part of the landscape, but they knew better. The inheritance of an ancient civilization now rested in their hands, and the future of humanity had forever changed. The end.